Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports. Today is January 16th, 2025. It's Thursday. And this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there. This is Ben Dickerson. I am your co-host. I'd like to start off the show as we have been doing recently with a Who Woulda Thunk It. I only have one. And I thought this was pretty interesting now that we're through the wild card round of the playoffs and about to enter the divisional round. Let's talk about a little stat here in reference to playoff wins. And that is, ever since Patrick Mahomes has become the starter for the Kansas City Chiefs, he has 15 playoff wins. That number is greater than 8 NFL franchises. Patrick Mahomes himself has more playoff wins than 8 NFL franchises. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that's
Oh, wait, I made a mistake. Not 8, 12.
12.
Texans, Cardinals, Jaguars, Panthers, Lions, Saints, Falcons, Bengals, Chargers, Browns, Jets, and Buccaneers. None of those teams in their whole history have as many playoff wins as Patrick Mahomes. That's nuts.
Yeah, and what it took me to in my thinking was, okay, all of those wins were under Andy Reid.
Correct.
So if you took Andy Reid's wins and totaled them up,
right, all those plus the playoff wins he got with the Eagles.
That's what I'm saying. There'd probably be a few more teams on that list go from 12 to I don't know what.
Yeah, that might be interesting to take a look at. I may look that up.
Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. I had a discussion with my niece, with Tanya. Tanya's really looking into football in only the way she can. And she's tied in, she's jumped on the story about Dion and the Cowboys.
Uh-huh.
And she said to him just about Jerry Jones, she's like, well, don't he know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over, right? And I said, well, first of all, I think you might be suffering from recency bias because as an Eagle fan, you won a Super Bowl in the last 3 to 5 years, and obviously the Cowboys haven't.
Right.
But he's got 5 Super Bowls.
Right.
So you got to give him a little bit of grace in terms of that. He does what he does, and she's like, well, that's going to destroy the value of his, franchise. I'm like, actually, it's at one of the highest. It's the most highly valued franchise, I believe, of all the pro franchises across all the sports.
So I'm pretty sure it is.
So he knows how to lose and still increase the value of his franchise. How genius is that?
Right,
but
right.
More closely back to what you were saying about the number of wins. Man, again, who was it? The Patriots and the Steelers with 6 wins, 6 Super Bowls each. And what is the Super Bowl 59, I believe we're at?
Yes, I believe that is where we are.
So just around the number to 60 to make the numbers easy. What's that? 10% of all the Super Bowls is the most any one franchise has won. Right. And I always talk about that to say, it's hard. It's a hard grind. And you're going to talk about the games that are coming up. And some of these guys are going to be up against it, like the team that has to play the Chiefs, for example. Because one of the guys was saying, I don't think Patrick Mahomes has lost at this round ever, at the division round.
I believe you are correct on that.
So
3 of the 4 games are division champ against division champ. So
Yeah,
big time.
yeah, but we got a couple David and Goliath games too.
I almost, you know what? I was so impressed with the way some of these teams played last weekend. It almost sounds a little bit disrespectful to do the David Goliath thing, but I understand where you're coming from as far as, the history of the team over the course of the season and all that stuff. But it's the postseason now. It's the postseason now. So
So,
we got to see.
any one game can do it. Any one game can.
And usually each round, well, each of the first two rounds, the wild card round and the divisional round, there's usually at least one upset.
Yeah, yeah. One surprise in the thing there. We had one last week. I had two actually. Speaking of,
Oh yeah, how'd you do?
I believe we were 4 for 6.
Yeah, I was 4 for 6 also.
So that's about 80%,
Yep,
right?
yep. Good job.
So that's a real good job, Benny. I mean, again, and you didn't go with me on every one of them, did you?
No, I didn't. It just so happens we came out with the same record.
Came out with
It's
the
crazy.
same one. Yeah. So again, Sterling Net Point Power Rankings is completely unbiased method. No conjecture, none of my opinion. It's just this is how we do it, and it's based on points. And again, points wins games. All the other things are factors, which get you to the point that when the fat lady sings, you have more points on the board than the other team. As long as that's the situation, you win. And the Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles, for example, are prime examples that it doesn't have to be a 30, a 20-point win. It can be a 5-point win, but it goes in the W column. Question is, now that you're playing with all big boys, can you keep that up, Benny? So let's get ready to go to the Bias Plus reports. Now, the Bias Plus reports takes the numbers from the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and puts them into a super secret formula that spits out what we call the Bias Plus report, which basically is a comparison of your net points and your turnover differential within that formula. And it comes out in favor of one team or the other. So it's a bias plus favoring one team or the other. So let's take a look at the upcoming schedule. All right, Benny. First up in the Bias Plus reports, Texans at Chiefs. Look at that number, Bias Plus score of only 1.6. Favors the Chiefs, but that number's a bit of a liar when you include week 18.
And it's a bit of a liar because the Chiefs were off last week.
Well, it's an average, so I don't.
Okay,
don't worry
it doesn't
about
make that much difference.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wait.
So I will say this much though. We used to do gross numbers.
Right.
They're much more dramatic than the averages.
That's true.
They're like, if you were to look at, and I'll take a quick look as I'm saying this, at the Detroit Lions, and you say, okay, the Detroit Lions are averaging plus 13, points per game. Well, depending on where, how you look at that, let's see if I can pull this up real quick. If you look at it on a gross number, the Detroit Lions, there they go, are plus 222 net points.
Wow.
On a gross basis.
Yeah, that's a bit more dramatic.
That's a bit more dramatic. The next closest is the Eagles at plus 160.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a little bit more dramatic. So I do like to mention that. So okay, Texans at Chiefs. This is one of the David and Goliath games as far as I was concerned. The Texans kind of got their act together. We saw a tremendous effort from their defensive line last week. You know,
Bruh. Houston Texans, number 4 seed in the AFC and Southern Division champions, will have to visit the Kansas City Chiefs, number 1 AFC seed, the Western Division champions. Texans won. Oh, Texans won in the first round of the playoffs for the second straight year. So the Houston Texans, let's remind everybody, are now on the up and up. Second year for CJ Stroud also. This game was a 32-12 victory over the number 5 seeded LA Chargers. CJ Stroud threw for 282, a touchdown and a pick, and they totaled 168 yards and a Joe Mixon touchdown on the ground. But you could charge this victory, to the defense. 4 sacks, 9 quarterback hits, brutal for Justin Herbert. They were all over him. 5 tackles for loss. Their front 7 dominated the Chargers' offensive line. And they had a whopping 11 passes defensed by a super active secondary. I'm telling you, that Stingley kid, and I think the other corner's name is Lassiter. Man, they stick people like glue, bro, and make plays. 11 passes defensed, and they intercepted Justin Herbert 4 times, made him look horrible. I mean, people on Facebook calling him trash, and we need to reevaluate if Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback and all kinds of stuff. It was crazy. But their defense, and here's the crazy thing now, and you might not have noticed this unless you really kept up with our rankings or unless you play fantasy football. The Houston defense has been good all season. They've had some clunkers of games here and there, but as far as holding teams down in scores and especially getting turnovers, they've really gotten the job done. So Texas defense is nothing to sneeze at. They look like they're back on top of their game. Now, the Chiefs are going to be the home team. They are the number 1 seed, and they did have the first round bye. And head coach Andy Reid is very well known for his record coming off of the bye. He's a master of scheming up a winning game plan when he has an extra week to prepare. That makes the Chiefs very, very dangerous. I don't know if I'm more enamored, so to speak, with Andy Reid's record coming off a bye or with the way the Texans defense played last week and generally speaking overall this season. I know I had them on one of my main fantasy teams. I played them almost every week until a little past midseason, and then I kind of had the Chargers defense carrying me from there. I was very impressed with them, however, especially their young front 7, especially their young defensive line. Forget the front 7. Their D-line's really good, and their secondary is really good. We talked about having an upset. I'm going to call it right now. I'm not going to hem and haw about it. I'm going to take the Texans to win this game.
you know, it's
Right off the bat,
okay. You're gonna go right off the bat. Yeah, I see.
I'm going.
Taking the Texans. In a nutshell, again, why the Texans?
First of all, their defense is humming. Kansas City's offense has been somewhat pedestrian all season long.
That's being kind.
And like I said, the Texans haven't just gotten good. They've been pretty good to really good over the course of the season. The only way they screw this game up or screw up their opportunity to win this is if CJ comes out and has a bad game on offense. Mixon looks healthy. The run game looks pretty good. CJ looked like he had his head on straight last week. Going to hope that he does it again this week. But yeah, I believe their defense is going to give Patrick Mahomes all he can handle. I think their secondary is good enough to take care of Worthy and Hollywood and anybody else they got out there. And I know not able to recall the name right now, but they have a linebacker, I think, that can handle Kelsey too.
If you have a linebacker that can handle Kelsey, that's big right there. Okay, all right. Going with the going against the bias, going with the Texans. There we go. Yeah, Texans. All right. Well, again, close bias, favoring the Chiefs, but I believe offset a bit by that last 18 games that gets calculated into this. The Texans, remember, net 0.0 because they were scoring 21.9 points per game over the season. Now, again, that's not the last 5 weeks, the last 3 weeks or so.
Right.
They were giving up 21.9. So that's how you net out to 0 right there. All right. So, you know, we kind of chose CJ Stroud last year as what we thought should have been the first pick of the draft.
And we were right.
And then we chose Jaden Daniels as what we thought should be the first pick of the draft.
And we were right again.
So our first picks are in the division playoffs as rookie and second year player.
Right.
That's pretty good, man. So I'm gonna pat myself on the back,
I would agree. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man. So there's a GM in our future somewhere. I don't know where.
I don't know about all that.
And I do want to remind people that the saying in the background there is our hashtag. Football is life. Hashtag football is life. So I decided to go with that for the division playoffs. And
got all excited.
I know about Jaden Magic Daniels.
Jaden Magic Daniels.
It kind of rolls. I like it. It rolls. Jaden Magic.
Kind of rolls off your tongue.
Yeah. Even if you leave the Daniels out, you can just go Jaden Magic. That's pretty good too.
Oh, Jesus. Or Magic Daniels.
Or Magic Daniels, yeah.
Oh, good grief.
It all works. By a score of 9.3, however, favors the Lions. So we were talking about the Steelers and the Ravens, and I was calling it the Wicked Witch versus the King.
Right.
And here we got Magic versus the Machine.
Oh, I like that. You're doing pretty good here with this. You had a couple good ones. Magic versus the Machine. I like it. Wow. Yeah. So the Commanders were the number 6 seed in the NFC. Obviously, the Lions were number 1. This is the one game where we're not matching division champions, but the Lions, of course, were the Northern Division champions in the NFC. Commanders had a great season, 12-5. Number 6 seed Commanders. They went on the road to Tampa Bay, and they were able to defeat the number 3 seed Buccaneers on a last-second field goal. And they won the game 23-20. Very good game to watch. A lot of fun. The Washington franchise hadn't won a playoff game since 2006. So people in D.C. are kicking themselves. I mean, they're ecstatic over this. Ever since the name they should have never had days, and the team that should change their name days to now, where we are now with the Commanders, who some people still think they should change, they haven't had a playoff game, let alone a playoff win. 2006, bro, that's a long time. But now they're there. Now, I'm going to go in on them a little bit because I love the Commanders right now and what's going on down there, and I think you do too. After a 4-13 record in 2023, which was just what we're going on, we just got 2025. Their new ownership, it's an ownership group actually. It's led by Josh Harris, and Magic Johnson. Everybody knows who Magic Johnson is. Josh Harris also owns the Philadelphia 76ers, and I believe he owns the New Jersey Devils too. Those guys, that ownership group, hired a new GM. His name is Adam Peters. They hired him away from the San Francisco 49ers. He was John Lynch's assistant. Adam Peters hired the new head coach, Dan Quinn, who he stole away from the Dallas Cowboys. And then they drafted quarterback Jaden Magic Daniels, second overall in the 2024 draft. This year, they had a complete culture change in 1 year. In 1 year, complete culture change, and ended with a 12-5 record over the regular season.
Now, real quick, the ownership change has been how long? 2 years?
2 years.
Okay, so they had a two. Okay, all right.
Right. They went through
ownership. They had a complete culture change because you have to include the ownership to some degree.
Well, yes. Let's include them also because the first year they took over was 2023. They had a 4-13 record. The new ownership group ended with a 4-13 record. That's when they went out and got the new head coach, the new GM, and drafted the new quarterback, and ended with a 12-5 record.
Okay.
Now let's talk about last week's game. So they played the Buccaneers. The lead changed hands 4 times in this game, and after the Bucs tied the score at 20, with a little more than 4 minutes left in the game, Jaden Daniels led a 10-play, 51-yard drive. This is crunch time we're talking about, folks. And the Commanders, excuse me?
And a rookie in crunch time.
Yes, and a rookie in crunch time ended up winning the game, won the game on a 37-yard Zane Gonzalez field goal. The field goal doinked off the right upright. It was a little scary there, folks, but it went through as time expired. So it's a great win by a team that a lot of people didn't really have faith in that game. I know I was thinking Tampa Bay was going to get them. Thought that juice had pretty much run out. But they hung in there, and the rookie QB took them down in crunch time for a critical game-winning field goal.
Can I say this quick?
Sure.
2 things. One, that was the loudest doink that I can.
It was. Oh, man. Oh, boy.
And you generally don't get the favorable field goal like it goes through when it doinks like that.
Right. Usually, if it hits the upright clean and makes a really loud noise, it comes back onto the field. But it kind of skinned it just enough. Probably was the spin of the ball that made the difference. And it went through. So
the other thing I'll say quickly is, and you can go to Ben and Barry on Football on Facebook. I believe I have the article there. The kicker for the Washington Commanders has OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder.
Oh, I saw that video.
Yeah.
He kept doing his hair.
He's doing his hair. He's messing with
his helmet
socks.
on. He took it off. He did it again. He put it on, took it off. Yeah, that was wild.
Interesting listening to him talk about it, and you know how people who have these types of issues with their life, at some point they go, it is what it is. You know what I mean? And I just have to deal with it, He said he thinks it helps him in football because
probably does.
Detail oriented and everything has to be just right type thing. It reminds me of I think Jerry Rice had to have his uniform laid out certain way in front of the locker,
Yeah, Deion did that too.
Deion too. Okay. And so that's in and of itself a very interesting football story. As I remind people, this is one of the biggest people businesses. When you talk about a 53-man roster and all the other, add-ons to the roster across 32 teams, that's a lot of people. So you're going to get a little bit of everything, when you have that much. So that's why we go to football is life. So Benny, the loudest doink, but it went through.
Loudest doing, but it went through. So they got to go to Detroit now. Doesn't get any easier. Lions obviously are the number 1 seed, and they're coming off their first round bye. Time off was good for them, if for no other reason it gave them some time to get some of their injured players back. I don't have a list of guys that they expect to get back, but I do know one guy, David Montgomery, who is the thunder part of their thunder and lightning backfield, or Sonic and Knuckles, as they call him, from Sonic the Hedgehog. Um, he should be back. As far as the guys on defenses, which is where they lost most of the players, I'm not exactly sure who will be back, but I know some of those guys are going to be back. Crazy thing is, the guys that have taken their place have played extremely well. Now, it helps when you have a machine like their offense is concerned, where you're usually playing ahead and you can play a lot of man-to-man and zero blitz coverage and things of that nature. But I cannot say anything bad about their defensive backups. Those guys have been playing extremely well. If there was going to be an upset, and like I said, there's usually one upset, I've already picked mine. A lot of people were talking about having faith in the Commanders being able to do something against the Lions. I am not one of those people. I'm picking the Lions to win this game.
One thing I will say about the Lions defense is that they had those injuries at a point in the season where by now a lot of those guys have 3, 4, 5 games up under their belt. So they're not just fresh off the bench anymore. These guys
exactly.
That actually kind of maybe gives the Lions a little bit of depth at defense.
Yep.
You wouldn't think about it like that,
but again, it's a credit to their GM, okay, to have that kind of quality depth. These ain't just cats just off the, practice squad like maybe he'll be okay, maybe he won't. These dudes are balling.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're like, I like Magic, but I don't think that Magic is ready to overcome the machine.
No.
The machine bias plus score 9.3 might be the largest bias of the weekend, Benny. And you're going to go with the bias, going with the Lions.
Yes.
That's okay. Let's see who's up next. Oh, my goodness. Rams at Eagles. Bias plus score 11.3. This, I believe, is the largest bias plus score of the weekend. And it's favoring those Eagles, Benny. Man, there's so many esoteric things going on with the Rams. Like your whole theory about traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast. And then there's the weather.
Oh, the weather. Oh. Hey, let me tell you something. It's funny. Me and Lawrence were in the gym this morning. We're working out. And he says, Tuesday is supposed to be the coldest day of the year. I'm like, is that like some kind of official thing? He's like, yeah. Evidently, there's a polar vortex coming down from Canada or something. And it's bringing snow. So there's an excellent possibility of snow for the game. But Tuesday of next week is supposed to be the coldest day of the year in this area. I believe the high is going to be 18 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that's where we are there with the weather.
Just as we start to celebrate that it's getting lighter.
Yeah.
We're staying light a little longer, so we're getting a little more daylight, but we still got to get through these last January, February temperature days, man.
Right. We're going to get hit with something now. The question is, if we're going to get snow, how much is it going to be? And again, it's got people wondering, do they even want to go to this game? Like I've seen a couple people questioning, like, I got a chance to go to this game, but I don't know. So
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be going. I'd be right here.
I hear you.
In front of the TV where it's warm.
I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
Look, between you and I, man, number one, we played in this mess.
Right.
Okay. We've gone to a lot of games in this mess, going back to high school. I remember I remember going to a game and I guess it was winter, maybe December, late or whatever. It was Doherty, so we had to be playing in the playoffs or something like that. But I was wearing regular dress shoes and nylon socks.
No.
God, you talk about a mistake. Oh my goodness. My feet were so cold. It was ridiculous. I think I hopped all the way home. It was just crazy, crazy. So yeah. The one thing about the Rams, though, again, now I guess they're back in their practice facilities in California, but I know they were supposed to be wearing masks if they were outside and still and all of that.
Yeah, and then guys some of them have got to take a little time to get their home affairs and stuff in order in case, the fire's moving toward them or away from them or whatever. They got to check on family and they got a lot of stuff going on.
No, they insurance.
Yeah.
Talking to the insurance company right now. But it would be nice if a team that was close, like the Giants or the Jets, would offer their facilities in the way that Arizona did to the Rams, allowing them to come over, set up with family ahead of time, step away from all of that, and maybe even have a moment or two to acclimate to both the time difference and the temperature difference.
Nah, you can't do that. Can't do that.
Did in Arizona. They moved the
No,
game.
they didn't.
They moved the game to Arizona.
They moved the game.
Right.
Why would you move the game to New York when the game is in Philadelphia?
Because it's close. It's what is it, an hour up the street, up the road. It's close.
What's wrong with Philadelphia?
Well, he's not going to go into the Philly. The same practice facility that the Eagles are at. I was thinking about a different one. The Eagles will be occupying their facility. Arizona was not occupying their facility. That was a neutral site that they made into the Rams' home field.
But that was for the game. That didn't have nothing to do with practice.
No, they brought their whole family. Arizona brought their whole family into Arizona. They set up a whole.
That's fine.
It was beautiful. It was a great thing. I mean, what they did. I mean, to accommodate the families of the players and stuff, because again, they don't have homes necessarily. So
they have hotels in Philadelphia, man.
Well, yeah, but you need a practice facility.
No, you don't.
The Rams do need a practice facility. They come to Philly.
They have one when they come to. Okay, teams come on the road like the day before the game, right?
Normally.
They don't practice on the field.
Okay, well, I'm saying normally that's true, but I'm thinking now because of the catastrophe, they might come a little earlier, and then they
can't do that. That would give them an advantage.
An advantage?
An advantage that they wouldn't normally have.
Well, it's I don't know if it gives them an advantage, but it would remove a disadvantage. So that's which is
that whole can't do that
last minute thing. All right, well, we'll see. I think it would be a very good thing to do. But you go ahead with the.
Yeah, I don't think the Eagles would appreciate that. I really don't.
Well, they're 11.3 bias plus favorites. They should be able to handle it.
That's not the issue. That's like saying, well, we got to go to Denver, so let's go on Wednesday so we can get acclimated to the altitude. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, nobody does that. They're not allowed to do that.
No.
Just can't do that. But anyway, we have another matchup between division champs. Number 4 seed, West Division champs, LA Rams. And number 2 seed, East Division champs, the Eagles. So the Rams hosted the number 5 seed, Minnesota Vikings last weekend. That Minnesota Viking team that finished the season 14-3. That strong Minnesota Vikings team that got a little bit, I don't want to say embarrassed, but I will say embarrassed in week 18 anyway. I digress. Because the wildfires in LA, which we just got finished talking about, the game had to be moved to the Cardinals' home field, which is in Arizona, obviously, State Farm Stadium. I believe it's in Glendale, Arizona. I could be wrong. But anyway, here's the astonishing thing. This could have been a who would have thunk it. The stadium for a normal football game holds about 63,000 people. Statistics from the commissioner's office say that 45,000 fans commuted from California by car, bus, whatever. So of the 63,000 seats available to the fans for that game, 45,000 went to people that came from California. I would only assume that most of them were Rams fans. Gave them a nice little advantage. They defeated the Vikings 27-9 in a way that was very similar to the Texans' win over the Chargers. I will now quote Matthew Stafford, the Rams quarterback. Our defense just went crazy, unquote. By the way, before we start talking about Sam Darnold turning into a pumpkin, let me try to make something clear. And of course, this is just my opinion. Yes, he played very poorly in week 18 against the Lions. That is a fact. But in this game, he never had a chance. He was sacked 9 times, 5 times in just the first half. He gave up what I like to call the fantasy trifecta: a sack, fumble, scoop and score, and he got hit an unmerciful 12 times. They were all over him. Their offensive line was totally dominated. Basically, the Rams D opened up a can of whoop ass on the Vikings O-line. Pretty much. That's the best way I can put it. They also registered a dominant 10 tackles for loss, so the run game had no chance either. And that's all on top of what they did just to Sam Darnold alone. It was really bad for the Vikings. They got completely decimated. I cannot blame that on Sam Darnold. Now, the predominant theme for the weekend, obviously, is defense. Or last weekend was defense. That was the name of the game in the Eagles' victory over the Packers also. They started fast. Special teams recovered a fumble on the opening kickoff. That led to the first Eagles touchdown, which was a pass from Jalen Hurts to Jahan Dotson, who a lot of people were looking at as a bust coming over from the Commanders, but he got him on the board first and early, which the Eagles haven't really been doing. Then the defense struck. They had 2 interceptions in the first half. They had a 16-3 lead before Green Bay finally found the end zone, and that was at the very end of the third quarter. The Eagles continued to handle the Packers' run game. They didn't completely shut Josh Jacobs down, but they had a handle on him, so much so that he couldn't make a difference for the poor play of Jordan Love, who threw 3 interceptions total. Now, originally, I was thinking to myself after watching the Rams all season and looking at how their offense is clicking and their defense is playing really well, and how dominant their defense was against a really good Minnesota Vikings offense. I was kind of thinking that perhaps they could come in here and beat the Eagles, but I'm not going to go there. And the reason I'm not going to go there is because the Eagles defense, which is obviously the number 1 defense in the league, yardage-wise and points against wise, now that the Chargers are out, I can't go against that. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. I'm going to stick with them to win this game.
Yeah. The Eagles are an interesting team. Again, not beating anybody by a large margin, but the Rams' numbers were so low from their struggles during the regular season that differential really favors the Eagles, and the weather favors the Eagles, and the travel favors the Eagles, and the home game favors the Eagles. So,
Right. Really hard to pick against the Eagles.
It's hard to pick against him. Even with Puka Nakua, I just had to say his name, on the other side of the field, coming in. So, all right, I can understand it. Ben is going with the bias, going with the Eagles. All right. The highlight of the weekend, Benny, the game of the weekend. As they're saying on the media, I'm not saying this. This is what they're saying on TV. Okay. On TV is Ravens at Bills. And a bias plus score of 4.6, Benny, favors the Bills.
Not a big bias, but it's decent.
Not a big bias, but it is decent. Yes, it is.
Yep. So again, we have division champs matchup here. Number 3 seed against number 2 seed. Ravens being the number 3 seed and the North Division champs. The Bills are the East Division champs. 13-4, number 2 seed. This is a huge game.
Huge.
We have 2 teams that match up extremely well. First, 2 of the top dual threat quarterbacks in the league. 2 of the top, or the 2 top contenders for MVP. 2 teams with really good running games and 2 teams with pretty good, coming along, getting better every week defenses. Now, neither team has a dominant defense, but both defenses are playing well when they need to play well. So again, really good matchup. Now, in this game, in the Bills game last week, it was really all about the offense. I've been talking a lot about the defense in these other games, and rightfully so. But for the Bills, it was the offense, especially the run game. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's not talk about that. That's not the Bills. That's the Ravens. The Ravens offense. They beat the Steelers 28-14. They went up 21-0 in the first half on 2 passing touchdowns by Lamar and a rushing touchdown by Derrick Henry. And at the end of a 13-play drive where Lamar never attempted a pass, that was crazy. If you watch the game and you watch that drive, and I'm saying to myself, he hasn't thrown a pass. They're running again. Oh, they're not going to run on this down. Oh, they got the first down. He still hasn't thrown a pass. And they went all the way down the field like that without throwing a pass and ended it with a touchdown. Not a field goal, a touchdown. That was awesome. That was offense. Lamar actually only threw the ball 21 times. He completed 16 of those 21, and 2 of them went for touchdowns. When he wasn't just handing the ball off, he ran the read option to perfection. I know you talked about that, how him and Derrick Henry were going to get along running the read option if it was going to be effective. If it was never effective before, it was effective in this game. The Steelers had no clue who was going to get the ball. And I think I talked about this last year or the year before, how adept Lamar Jackson is with his skills handling the ball and his fakes and when he gives it and when he pulls it out. That's tremendous. He's really, really good at that. Once again, offensive coordinator Todd Monken used my formula for an unstoppable Ravens offense. I asked for 18-plus carries for Derrick Henry, the more the merrier. He gave him 26 carries. He got 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. Thank you very much. Along with that, I asked for a significant number of rushes for Lamar. Just because you have Derrick Henry doesn't mean that Lamar can't still do his thing. In fact, now that the read option is cooking, that makes him even more effective. I don't care how he does it. Quarterback draws, read option keepers, power sweeps, releases from the pocket on pass plays, whatever. I don't care. Preferably 8 or more times I need him to run the ball. He gave me 15 for 81 yards. Steelers had no answer for them at all. Defensively, the Ravens completely shut down any semblance of running game for the Steelers, which is what they were trying to hang their hat on, but they got zero. They put it all on Russell. And they harassed the heck out of him all day long, so he didn't have a chance. Hence, a dominating win. Now, the Buffalo Bills hosted the Broncos. This one game I did not see coming, not the outcome of this game. I didn't see this one coming. The Broncos have been playing really, really well. Their defense was looking very strong, but they were no match for a dominant Buffalo Bills attack on both sides of the ball. The offense was very balanced. They scored on 6 of their first 7 drives. When a team scores on you 6 times out of 7, you know you're in trouble. They finished the game with a 23-minute advantage in time of possession, 482 total yards, 272 through the air, 2 touchdowns, 210 on the ground, 1 touchdown, and the defense was solid. They forced 3 3-and-outs and 2 turnovers on downs. A complete game for the Buffalo Bills. Both sides of the ball, on the ground, through the air, everything. They looked extremely, extremely powerful in that particular game against what looked to me like a really good young team in the Denver Broncos. They just dismantled them boys. So this is the toughest one to call. I've been haggling over this game all day long. I think the Ravens are going to roll up in here and they're going to take these boys out in Buffalo.
Okay.
I think Josh Allen's going to win the MVP. But I think the Ravens are going to win this game and advance. I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Going with and you know, Benny, the interesting thing when I looked at this is net point wise, the Bills are only 0.6 ahead or favored over the Ravens.
Right. It's the turnovers that's the difference, right?
The turnovers that got added in that pumped it up to 4.6. So as long as Lamar and them play turnover either free or win the net turnover battle, I can actually see what you're saying. It makes sense. I kind of feel like the Ravens have more going for them. But the funny thing is, I keep saying, yeah, the Ravens got King Henry, but that guy Cook.
James Cook is good. Like I said, both teams have excellent run games. There's no doubt about it.
That guy is, I hate to say it, is cooking. So.
Now, here's another thing since you mentioned that. And let's talk about weather again. Okay. Right. You got 2 dual threat quarterbacks, but one of them is shifty and fast. The other one is like a bulldozer. Which one plays best in cold, possibly snowy weather?
Well, if you go straight to the snow, we're definitely talking bulldozer here.
Right, which would be Josh. That's why this game is so tough for me to call. I'm telling you, man, this is going to be a good one.
And Josh is the alien. Well, they're both aliens, but again,
yeah.
I guess if you really think, again, for me, and you said 18 carries for Henry. For me, it's 20 is the magic number.
18 is the minimum.
Minimum. Okay. Well, I just have a magic number, 20. You give it to 20 times, and it's a wrap for the most part. So
what I say, it's only a wrap if Lamar gets 8 to 10 plus.
If the weather's really bad, then that's going to become that much more important as a factor in that. Because I'm thinking, if not, Lamar, he's clicking with his tight end.
Oh yeah.
So I have no problem. I guess I have less of a problem with Lamar being more of a passer than what you do. I really feel comfortable with that.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with him not running.
Well,
that's what made him.
I understand that. I understand that. I just think that he's so much better now. That he can.
When he runs, they win. When he
Well,
doesn't run, sometimes they win.
all right. You're going with the Ravens
Yes.
going against the bias. That's 2 out of 4 games.
Yes.
Going against the bias here, Benny. That's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. All right. Well, that wraps up the Bias Plus report for the division round of the NFL playoffs for 2024/2025. Ah, I can't wait. It's going to be a great day of football. And we have one more thing to cover, Betty.
We do?
I think
Do we have a bias buster?
I decided to go and continue the bias buster into the playoffs. So we have some playoff level bias busters. And let me say this much. Again, we only missed out on 2, right?
Right.
But the difference between the bias buster winner and the bias buster loser is 0.1 points.
Okay.
0.1 is the only difference between the two. And the winner, the Bias Plus Buster of the Wild Card Weekend is the
Yes, sir.
Texans.
That's right. My upset pick this week. Let's go.
The Houston Texans. And it very easily could have been the Rams. But the Houston Texans came in at 26.3, and the Rams came in at 26.2.
Okay.
But
the Texans
did had a tie, which was unprecedented.
But the Texans did it against the number 1 ranked points against team.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. So the Houston Texans Bias Plus Buster of the Week. Congratulations to the Houston Texans. All right, Ben, you want to do a quick look at our Facebook page?
Sure. What we got?
So let's go to the Facebook page for Ben and Barry on football. And we had this debate during the game or during the show, Benny. But I have here 20 carries. Looks like the magic number. Derrick Henry off to the races on a 44-yard TD against the Steelers. And it's so amazing to see. This came up, and I just thought it was just instructive as to what happens with Derrick Henry. 1 minute you're ahead of him. The next minute how did that happen?
Again, people forget this kid can run, man.
Oh
he can
my
rumble.
gosh. Running is it's amazing. And I mean, these are D-backs and safeties and
yeah. And he weighs like 240.
Easily. It's absolutely amazing. We have a little bit. I'm going to jump to Derrick Henry real quick. This is a video that we put up on our Facebook page about his workouts and his diet. So if you want to see, how he keeps it up and what he does in not just the season, but in the off season, they go through everything in this. This is a pretty comprehensive little video here, Benny. So there you go with that. Now, let's back it up a little bit. Thoughts on Troy Aikman, of all people, talking about the Dallas Cowboys and saying the ownership does not empower the Dallas Cowboys head coach. Okay. Now, normally, if you're a Cowboy guy, you just fall in line and you don't really.
Yeah, I can't say he's been very critical of Jerry Jones. He's said his some small things, but nothing really, critical about Jerry Jones. And I understand why. He's a Cowboy through and through. But it was time to be honest. That's how he feels.
I think it's obvious. It's not like he says something and people go, "Oh, really?
Yeah, right, right. People aren't going to go, "What? Are you crazy?"
Everybody's
No.
going to go, well, I'm glad somebody finally spoke the truth to what was obvious. You know what I mean? Put truth
Yeah.
in power, as they say.
And coming from him, that's what makes it a big deal.
Which goes against some of these things I'm hearing about, Dion wanting to go there, because I don't think Dion is going to go and
No.
and go in any type of a power struggle with Jerry Jones. You don't need that.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Sense. So I wanted to mention that there was one other thing here I think that we talked about. Oh, we talked about this. Zane Gonzalez has a mental health disorder. He has OCD. So people were watching him line up for the winning kick, which was the loudest doink that we talked about. And they saw him messing with his hair, and they saw him messing with his socks, and messing with his hair, and messing with his socks. And they're like, what the heck is going on with this guy? But now we know. And it's enlightening, I guess, is one word to say, to know that you can have a disorder like OCD and make it to the highest level of pro football, of sports,
Right.
still function. And he does that. So, congratulations to him on overcoming, that disability and being able to focus. And he said on the field, it seems to help him. It's off the field, he said, it's a pain in the butt.
Especially being a kicker, a job that's so detail oriented. Your timing, the swing of your leg, where your foot hits the ball has to be almost perfect every single time. That's crazy. Did you click something?
Did you hear noise in the
Oh,
background?
there you go. No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's my grandson. He's
Okay.
around and about.
So yeah, that's something else. But at first, I didn't really know about it, and I didn't look at the article. And I was watching TV, and I think I had the sound down, and I was looking at video. I'm like, why do they keep showing this guy stroking his hair? And I thought it was on a loop, like back and
Oh,
forth, but it wasn't.
was
He
it?
actually was doing his hair, putting his helmet on, all the way on, then taking it off and going again and putting it back on and off and doing it. I was like, wow.
Oh, I didn't know he was putting his helmet on and off like that. Also, wow,
Yeah.
really makes it look weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like up under the helmet, the hair's not right. Something like that. Well, before we log off, and again, we ask people to make sure that you click the subscribe and the like button and leave us some comments. Let us know what you think about our analysis. But Benny, how we talk about some of our favorite sports writers and sports media people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorites now is Mark Schlereth, aka Sting.
Right.
He said something which took me right back to my whole youth football. Remember the question about Lamar Jackson, and I believe Beyonce was going to be performing, and he was like, I don't know if I'm going to be at a halftime. I'm going to be
Oh, right, because he wanted to come out and
show.
watch the show. Yeah.
Mark Schlereth said, oh, he said, I never miss a halftime. Where would I get my orange slices? Didn't your coach give out orange slices in Little League when you was?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He went all the way back to that. Where would I get my orange slices? And I'm like, oh my God, CYO football. It just took me right back to
Right.
Little League.
Why would I want to go and watch a halftime show when I go into the locker room and get orange slices?
That's
What a
about orange
guy.
slices for him. And we did that for our kids, at halftime, we
Yeah,
pulling out the bag of
sure.
oranges and all of that. So it just is so he's so classical football in his conversation that it always takes me back. So I love listening to that guy, man. And he focuses on the line. So
Yeah, that reminds me of something. I don't want to bore people or anything. This shocked the heck out of me. When I went to Penn State and I was a walk on the freshman team, and I went to practice, when we took breaks, guess what they gave us? Bottles of Coca-Cola.
really,
That was crazy. Like, it was a break, and everybody took their helmets off and we're walking. And I'm talking to the guy that's like kind of helping me because he's been there since spring camp, and I just walked on, so he was helping me out and giving me pointers. I'm like, so what are we doing here? Going for water? And he goes, no. And the guy's there with a cooler and he's handing out Cokes. I was like, whoa. But yeah,
well, that might have been a contract thing, an agreement or something like that between Coke. And was it Coke in the Steelers commercial with
this is instead of Gatorade.
oh, I know. What you
Yeah,
would think, I don't know, Benny.
it was sweet. It gave you energy.
It did, no doubt about it. It
Yeah.
had caffeine, it had sugar,
Yep. Yep.
it's a
Yep.
little more of a drying thing. Like you can get dry mouth a little bit with all of that sugar.
Yeah. I mean, they had water too. Whenever you needed it, you could run off and get water. But when we took a break, they gave everybody a Coke.
Well, I'm sure they
Just
had
one.
refreshing. It was probably nice and cold too, wasn't it?
Yep. I'm thinking
Oh,
they would never do this at Germantown.
come here, say hi. Say hi. Say that's it, ladies and germs. We're about done.
That's all, folks.
Somebody taught him how to go coochie coo, like when you tickling somebody.
Yeah.
So that's all he does. He run around by the house going coochie coochie coochie. He got one of those horses on the springs, and the riding horse things. Coochie cooing the horse.
Oh my goodness.
He's fine. He's fine. Don't worry about it. All right, man. Well, let
All
me
right, bro.
looking on the second half of this. Make sure that you take a look at it and let me know how we're doing on the editing process. Now we're doing timestamps, so everybody should be able to go to our website and click on the game that they want to see, if that's all they want to see, and go right to it. So, all right,
Sounds good.
peace
Got it.
out.
Later.